The biggest challenge is selling to strangers, selling to people that never heard of us before, which tends to be barely lucrative. The solution to this dilemma is to build a community, to build our following of repeat buyers. We want to really focus on building this relationship and creating this following of repeat buyers who we don't have to cold sell to.
Welcome to the High Voltage Business Builders Podcast, a show where we interview high voltage entrepreneurs growing and scaling through e-commerce, real estate, and other wealth without Wall Street ventures, showing you the path to making your first or next million.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited here today to speak to a gentleman who knows something about ecom, which is always cool. As you know, we talk about all kinds of things on this podcast, from entrepreneurs to solopreneurs to folks who are wanting to get started, building a side hustle or potentially a real business opportunity through one of the mediums we usually discuss on this chat, from ecom to real estate to alternatives to wealth without Wall Street. So my guest today is going to be focused on ecom, where we're going to talk about conversion rates, taking cold traffic into conversion opportunities, and standing up an ecom store and a brand, and of course, how to track and measure those leads properly, which is an important part of any business model. If you can't track or measure, you don't technically have a business if you don't know how to spend your money. So we're going to break into that a little bit today. Dano, welcome to the call, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me, Neil.
Well, good evening to you,
Yeah.
in the world of which you are. Where's that at?
Well, this is a city called Kuala Lumpur. It's in Malaysia, and I think we are on opposite side of the planet. So thanks to tech,
Yes.
we still can talk to each other. But right now it's 11 p.m. here, and I think it's something around 11 a.m. at your place. So, yeah.
10 a.m., so we're 11
10.
hours difference. Yeah, so that's a good. I mean, we deal with this in the constant affect of the world now, as the world being flat in business. So constantly dealing with people we probably would have never had a chance to really communicate or chat with, which I love about these common conversations that can go from all locations. Now, are you from that area originally, or are you a transplant? Are you a expat in some other homeland? Why are you in Malaysia? Are you running from the law?
I like the transplant description. There's a long story. I mean, when I was 10 years old, I lived in 5 countries. So I've been around a bit. I was born in Ukraine, grew up in Kyrgyzstan, in Belarus, and then when I was 10, I ended up in Germany, which I spent most of my life in. And then 12 years ago, I came to Malaysia. I saw the place and I fell in love with it, so I decided to stay here. And thanks to a digital, online business situation, I could. So now I'm living in Malaysia, enjoying the endless summer here. And a few other things.
Endless summer,
still my business is not limited to Malaysia.
So was e-commerce your focus this entire time for all these travels since you were young, or is this something you kind of fell into, or how did e-com become a part of your life?
I was sound engineering at the film set somewhere in, I think, 1994. And my friend said, "Hey, there's this thing called desktop publishing. Let's try it out." And I said, "Okay, cool. Sounds good." So I bought a Macintosh computer, and we started doing digital stuff. And it was a long journey between here and then. But after that, it was all about doing stuff online. The internet came up, and 3D and graphic design, web design, all that. So I was running an agency in Munich. So so the digital world kind of got me, and it went on to running an Amazon business between 2014, 2019, which I sold. And after that, I decided to just apply what I learned to my agency business and help other businesses to grow.
Fantastic. So was this because you had were you a trust fund baby and daddy had a lot of money and you could just go around and do whatever you wanted? Or was this because you were just tenacious, go-getter, side hustle, built companies, bootstrapped?
Yeah, I think I've built around 16 companies or businesses so far online. So after my Amazon experience, I had this desire or passion, or just I chose this path of serving other people and working with actually humans rather than selling to an anonymous crowd, which has its perks. But I just wanted to go back to this kind of service industry where I felt more purposeful. Yeah, that's the reason why I came back to the agency world.
So what is it about the agency side of things that you like so much that you've stuck with it?
I find it very exciting to see other people grow their business with my help. And I really love to see people thrive, and I really love to contribute to other people's success. And because I've been through so many challenges and learning experiences, instead of calling it failure, we call it learning. So I did learn a lot, and I do like to apply what I've learned especially to other people's business. When from the bird's eye view, you see so many gaps oftentimes, and it's very fulfilling to kind of help people to fill these gaps and kind of move faster and move forward and grow, rather than being stuck. So this is what excites me.
We know the difference between learn and earn, right?
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yep, there's an L. That's it. Yeah, the difference between learning and earning is the L. If you don't apply the L, then you get nowhere. Otherwise, you're a loser. That's what the L stands for.
All right.
So if you apply learning, then earning is the outcome. You just take off the L. So that should be take off the L. I should come up with a phrase.
Oh, man.
Take off the L.
That
could be a brand name. Take off the L.
I've been following your Facebook posts lately. Yeah, you have all this wisdom coming out. Does it all come out of your brain, or do you have a book like with all these quotes?
It's a combination of everything. I can't give away my trusted sources. A true professional never. Jay Shetty was my inspiration, and I just kind of follow in his wake of just a bunch of fake propaganda for lifting people's spirits.
Cool. It works. It works on me, man. Yeah, I like every time.
It works on you. Well, I'll keep sending, as Travis Sago says, my mojo your way. I'll keep sending my mojo into my Facebook. It's the one place where it seems to be that I can still say what I want to a certain degree. I just have to be more clever about what it is so I don't get banned, but it gets a little more traction with my current network there. But I love to have fun on that and see, push the boundaries and get my community guideline slaps on the wrist if I go too far. So are you an Amazon seller?
Not at this moment. Well, I still have an Amazon account. I do a bit of wholesale selling on the side, but I don't focus on that. So so right now I'm managing an Amazon accounts, but mostly we are into Ecom and helping Ecom people like building their stuff outside of Amazon.
So what does conversion rate mean in the layman's terms, and then what does it mean in terms of a business builder or a brand builder?
Well, it's one of the most important metrics, I would say, also on Amazon, but especially it becomes very tangible if you're selling off Amazon in your own store, because then you have this very simple equation of sending traffic to your store, which doesn't come free most of the time, and then how much of this traffic sticks and converts into a sale, or at least into a subscriber. That's called the conversion rate. And this number has been going down for the last years. So because of this zero moment of truth, I think is called the Google study, which tells us like how many touch points people need these days before they actually make a purchase. I think this number is around 30 plus nowadays. So people are clicking around, shopping around, checking out all kind of stuff. So before somebody actually buys, it takes a lot of effort and multiple touch points for them to actually convert it from a prospect, from a visitor to a customer. And this number has gone down from 2.8 on average to around 1.4%, which also tells us the story, like how expensive it can be to get someone to buy on our store, because, out of 100 people, 1.4 people actually buy.
Yeah, you've got to get really clever. And with certain changes to tracking metrics and system changes with Apple, they call it the iOS change and stuff, you've got Google moving display advertising out of the pixel realm. You're really going to have to get back to the days in which you have a stronger, tighter message so that you can let the AI systems kind of do their thing to evolve that audience into your message. Am I wrong, or how much farther down that rabbit hole should you take me?
I would say the biggest challenge is selling to strangers, and I would say that the solution to this dilemma is to build a community, to build our following of repeat buyers, and not to have to sell to strangers, which is becoming more and more difficult. So if somebody asks me what is the biggest challenge in e-com, I say it's selling to strangers, it's selling to people that never heard of us before, which tends to be like barely lucrative. So we want to build a list, and we want to keep, we want to really focus on this list building part and building this relationship and creating like this following of repeat buyers who we don't have to cold sell to.
Well, cold selling is just a definition of a term of touch points, or a certain amount of touch points, isn't it? So the average, they say, is 7 touch points to a sale. Is it more than 7 now, or is the 7 touch points to a sale ratio still?
It's more than 30
applicable?
actually.
It just has to do with who and how many, what ways you touch them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to touch them on multiple channels. You have to, and multiple times most of the time. So, as I said, according to the Zero Moment of Truth, it's more than 30 touch points that we need, like at the present time, to convert someone from a stranger into a buyer. So that's a lot of touch points, and they don't all happen on our website. So of course, that's why we have social media channels. That way, we have email lists. That way, we're trying to be present, omnipresent on many channels, to create all these touch points and to bring people back to our store and to convince them that, and create a relationship and brand building, which is more than just like the other guy who's selling something, but to create this personal connection with our audience.
Yeah, no, that's smart. I find that if someone wants to get involved with Voltage, it's an average of more than 90 days, sometimes up to 6 months, and they're anywhere between 50 to 100 touch points before they feel like they can engage and have a serious conversation.
There you go.
Sometimes it's a little sooner, but they'll just get some information and disappear. Then a couple of months later, they show up and they're like, hey, I'm really serious now. I want to talk about getting to the next steps. But it's typically not daily, and that is just something that people are going to have to understand about business. Now, that's the channel of more consulting leads and business-to-business operations. What about the conversion rates in your traffic channels like Facebook marketing, advertising for Amazon, sponsor brands, these kinds of things? What are you seeing for the physical branded products versus maybe the lead gen or consulting-based type of individuals?
Well, there's a correlation between the amount of touch points and the price point, obviously. So, of course, if you're buying like a consulting program, which is like 4 figures plus or whatever, then, of course, this amount of touch points goes even further. If it's an everyday item, if you're just buying a $5 cup or something, of course, you're gonna do less research. So it's gonna be maybe below 10. But on average, if we're talking about like $50 plus product range, luxury products, lifestyle products, we see this kind of amount of between 20 and 30 plus touch points that people need before they make a buying decision, if they're strangers. Which brings us to the point like how to not have strangers buying from us, and I think that's the focus here that we have to take to not sell to strangers.
Well, one of the ways we leverage that for new ecom brands in the physical product world, and I think you and I have talked a little bit about this, and maybe we can go into this a little bit more for the audience, but is Amazon. And we leverage them as a tool. People are like, oh, I hate Amazon, or I don't want them, the big conglomerate or the Bezos nonsense or whatever. That's fine. That's all good. But more than like 70% of the sellers on .com are people like us. They're small businesses. So I still see that as an opportunity for those to get involved, and there's 150 million buyers on there. So you're solving a couple of problems right out of the gate by using leverage, right? When you see people leveraging that space who are getting going or growing, what is their current marketing campaigns looking like? What's the cost per CPC look like? What's the real price point and opportunity you see from your angle that people should be thinking about?
We don't focus on Amazon at the moment so much. So what we do is we help people to grow their businesses off Amazon. And we have a special angle in that space where we apply our system to actually capture their page visitors and to bring them into the email list. And this is something that can significantly shorten this path between selling to strangers and building your community. So our focus is to help ecom sellers to build their list much faster than it would normally work with classical methods like sign-up forms and cart abandonment and purchases. So we can actually capture those people who just came to your website and left without signing up, without making a purchase, and put a decent percentage of those into your email list. And this is how we help our clients to grow their list and build their relationship and build the lifetime value of the customer list.
So for those who are on Amazon side, if that channel, we can continue that channel talk, how many of those can you capture? How many are you targeting to capture into the list in email side?
This system only works if you have full control over your store. So it does not work on Amazon, Etsy, eBay, whatever. It only works when you have your own store, like any of the common platforms, BigCommerce, Shopify, WooCommerce, whatever. So when you can install a script on your page, then we can capture around 15% of your visitors, of your prospects, and put them to your email list. So we have this little infographic where we show that like 100 people come to your store. Typically, maybe 2 of them would convert. The rest of them would simply leave. Out of these 98, we can capture around 15 people We can capture their email address and their name. We add them to the email list. We can send them an email sequence immediately. And by doing so, we typically can add 2 buyers to your bottom line. So instead of having 2 people buying out of 100, we end up with people who have bought.
Yeah, and the power of that is obviously immeasurable. For Amazon, there are other ways to kind of do it. It just isn't as high a touch point as you owning your own store. So you're talking about maybe a web commerce or Shopify or a platform-based type of store in which you own the quote-unquote customer data at the time in which the purchase occurs. Follow-up and systems or follow-up are there. Yeah. Where have you seen the growth of that market over the last year, and where do you kind of project it heading into this year in terms of where you guys are going?
I see an enormous amount of growth potential for this specific system and the application of the system, because, I mean, once you have experienced this, if out of 100 people instead of 2, now you have 15 leads added up to your email list, that is something you don't want to miss anymore. So we see a lot of interest, and we see a lot of excited customers of us who cannot believe their eyes and who have never seen such a return of investment previously. And I think it's just a matter of spreading the word about the existence of the system to grow it further and to have more people enjoy the benefits of it.
Are you using any AI systems currently in your processes, or are you looking at incorporating any of that into your business and growth and seeing opportunities for it?
Well, we all look into AI these days. Our system does not require AI. It's an IT-based database matching system which does not require AI really. But of course, AI is on our radar, and we will see in which part it could fit in. It could help us to improve even further. But at the moment, we can do without it. Yeah.
Okay. Switching gears for just a second, if I might ask you a separate question, a little more personal question. If someone were to ask you what's the best advice you've ever heard and could relay it to somebody, what would be that advice? What would you tell them?
The best advice of all. Whoa, that's a big question, man.
That resonated with you personally.
So I think I already mentioned this. One of my mentors said that there is no failure, there's only learning and success. So this is to me something like a mindset kind of thing. It's a big difference. So instead of, and to me, mindset is a very big topic, and I love talking about it. But to get this kind of attitude shift in my head, where I see something not working, and instead of getting frustrated or depressed or whatever, instead of that, just changing the perspective and look at it as a lesson that I'm learning right now, and which is valuable, which will help me with my further ventures. That is a big difference, and maybe that would be the best advice I've received.
Now flip that coin on its head. What's some of the worst advice you ever listened to that you wish you'd never taken action on and never heard in the first place?
I never heard that one before, man. Oh, this one is really unprepared. The worst advice.
Yep. Don't eat something in Malaysia that you don't know is. Don't eat street meat in Malaysia. Maybe would that be bad advice? That'd actually be good advice. The bad advice would be what someone told me to eat at street meat in Malaysia, and I did it, and that was the worst week of my life.
Oh, you actually did get food poisoning in Malaysia?
No, I'm talking on behalf of you. I've never been to Malaysia. No, I certainly wouldn't eat stuff off the street unless I knew who it was.
Yeah, I mean, no, the meat is not bad. I mean, the bad part in Malaysia are actually the mosquitoes, because I recently caught dengue again for the second time. So, that's so. I mean, it doesn't have much to do with advice really, but yeah, this is one of the danger parts here when you get bitten by a mosquito and suddenly you fall sick to an extent that you cannot move for days. That's not helpful.
So no bad advice has ever been given to you that you knew you should, that you, in hindsight, you're like, well, that was a really stupid thing to do or say, or gosh, I wish I'd never listened to that.
Yeah, I think the bad advice is to listen to your authorities without listening to your heart, and I think that is the worst advice I have received throughout my entire childhood, to do as I'm being told, and to kind of ignore my gut feeling, ignore what my heart says and what I think is right. That is to me bad advice.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson we can all learn these days. It's okay to some degree to question authority, depending upon where the authority is and coming from, and whether or not you should trust your heart a little more to determine and to use discernment, if at all possible.
Yeah,
I think that's actually good advice. We'll take it for both. Any last parting words of wisdom you would like to leave folks with here today? Maybe a couple tips or something you want to leave them with to think about in terms of something they should be doing or something maybe they shouldn't be doing in the areas of conversions and follow-up and other stuff?
Well, life, I would say get a Ducati and ride as much as you can. That's my advice for life. That's what I do. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I'm in Malaysia actually because I love to ride my bike, and here I can do it like 365 days a year, almost. In terms of business advice, I think, getting back to conversion, I think so many people are not aware of their metrics, of their numbers, and I think just to be aware of what's going on and to figure out what is working and which buckets of prospects are converting, which are not, and how to tweak these numbers. I think that is a very a core function of an ecom business. To really dial into this conversion rate stuff and understand what are the moving parts and what helps and what doesn't help.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing some words of wisdom and some stories. Hope you have a great evening in Malaysia, and we'll catch you again on another episode.
Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
If you like this episode, please share it with people you think will enjoy it as well. Thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode of High Voltage Business Builders.